Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. We're virtual only, based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number works if you'd like to contact us. We do the philosophy of eschatology, not the news events and things like that. I have people that I'll source in a couple of slides from now that do an excellent job on that. We're giving you more of a magazine version of the end times. What you need to know, your reality, our existence. We're talking about prophecy. We're trying to solve, in this case, Revelation 11, which matches up with Ezekiel 38:39 and Zechariah 14. We're trying to prove to you today that you're prepping for nukes or you're prepping for micronova. And I believe you will find out that the micronova, the sun, will be more dramatic because by the time the war hits, Yeshua is here. I'll try to prove that today. We'll see if you agree with me. We'll use the Bible, we'll use news, and we'll use prophecy. So the war drums are beating, no doubt about it. Here's Macron saying, we're going to announce Europe is at war with Russia on June 6th. And they know what day June 6th is, okay? That's VE Day. And so from 1945, that's a long, long time ago. It's interesting that it's, such a time. Interesting. Down below that, so this is Hal Turner radio show. NATO cyber attack now grounds for Article 5 collective self-defense, false flag their own countries, blame it on Russia, then join the Ukraine war against Russia. So is Europe actually thinking they can go to war? They can't. They can't win. They don't have any tanks. They don't have anything other than a few nukes and some lazy soldiers that are sitting around doing nothing. Okay? Does anybody from France really frighten you? Maybe the new immigration people that have recently come to France, they frighten me, but not the French themselves. They have lost their desire to fight since about 1812. Okay, so on the right-hand side, this is Gospel News. This is a gospel source, Hispanic. Russia ponders a nuclear attack, 11 submarines in Balava atomic missiles in the Atlantic, Escobar, NATO escalation for World War III. Okay, so I see that. I see all of these noises, and that's biblical. The noises before God permits World War III. And even my friends, so John Haller has been talking about all nations gathering against Israel. That's a reference to Ezekiel 38:39. And Haller's a great guy. Mark Biltz is a friend of mine also, and he's saying America at war 2024 through 2026. Yes, in many ways we are at war, but I think these are just the warnings about war, okay? And so I think the cosmic solar activities are much more dangerous for you and much more important than World War III. And I'm going to argue it comes at the end. And once again, Michael Snyder, he's another friend. He's been on our show, Prophecy Roundtable. Great, great guy. He argues that World War III is potential right now. I'm arguing based on Revelation 7:16 that the big four coming out of the Great Tribulation are hungry, thirsty, sun falling, burning heat. Two of those are the sun, okay? The heat from the sun. And it's going to be odd how I explain it to you, but just stick with me, okay? And so I see the rumors of wars, the noises, as the Bible will call it. So let's go to Matthew 24 on the right-hand side, which is you will hear the noise of wars nearby and the news of war far off. See to it that you don't become frightened. Such things must happen, but the end is yet to come. For peoples will fight each other. That's ethnos versus epi, ethnos, okay? Nations will fight nations. That's basileia, epi, basileia. So it is nations. And there will be famines. That's limo. And that's there. And earthquakes in various parts of the world. And we haven't hit the earthquakes yet. We haven't. So we aren't quite there yet, okay? So Ukraine can now use Western arms to strike inside Russia. That was just determined just the other day here from Al Jazeera. That was a horrible Biden decision. As Trump was, his verdict was being announced, they announced this. They're they're trying to build up for World War III, no doubt about it. And then, where are the wars going to come from? These rumors of wars and the noises. Well, Israel-Hamas war, news highlights. U.S. urges Israel to protect civilians after a devastating Rafah strike. Okay, fine. From the Hindustan Times down below. I don't know what WION is, but what will China's invasion of Taiwan look like? Wow. And then Iran is trying to start World War III with Israel too. So it's coming from many, many different directions. I see that. I understand that. But I'm arguing that this is much more huge. This is the solar energetic particle chain that is driving in energy from the sun. It's getting through because of our thinning magnetosphere, and it's coming back up as the storms that you see on the right, which is Derecho type storms in the central U.S. with 100-mile-per-hour winds the second time, baseball sized hail in the Denver area that is baseball sized again. Okay, so what we're seeing is these horrible storms, and this is from Suspicious Observers and Fox Weather. And so Ben is stating that's the big thing going forward is these storms, and I'll give you prophetic sightings for that too. So once again, cosmic forcing, and then the weather that we notice. Okay, those signs are increasing. This is Beijing over here with the huge thunderstorms. Then to the right of that, you have Barranquilla of Caribbean, Colombia, with these horrible storms and floods and things like that. Then you've got in Russia, you've got hail, horrible hail everywhere. And so these are cosmic forcing signs. And you've got the world markets that are in shaky states right now. Society seems to be collapsing. Which one's going to happen first? I don't know. But I am telling you that those are part of the signs, but the sun is much more significant to you. Believe it or not, it is. Okay, so this is Wilkerson, the Vision, 1973. Once again, world markets and society collapses when he's saying total economic confusion striking Europe, Germany, he says in his video first, then affecting Japan, then the US, then Canada, and all other nations shortly thereafter. That is the third horseman. That's inflation. Okay, and so then he cites drastic weather changes. Now, these are not in the same section of the book. They're quite a ways apart. But the world is about to witness the beginnings of great sorrows brought about by history's most drastic weather changes, earthquakes, floods, terrible calamities, far surpassing anything ever yet witnessed. So whatever you're witnessing right now it pales in comparison to what's coming. And Wilkerson is right. And Ben Davidson is preaching the same thing. Outbreak of epidemics. That's the fourth horseman. That's Therion. Technically, the weather changes are the sixth seal. That's where you should notice it. You'll have famine, floods, earthquakes, things like that will cause epidemics. Then the famine part of it, and that is probably the limo part, which is the fourth horseman again. Therion would be small animal attacks, biological warfare, things like that. Famine is coming to the world, and then depletion of relief funds, things like that. Going to be nasty, people. Very, very nasty, prophetically speaking and realistically speaking. Okay? My sign to you is when you see the billionaires run to their bunkers, that's an important time. That's probably just before the sixth seal. So they're building them right now. They want to be done building by winter of 2024. And they're building them with fabulous fiery moats and water cannons. And so, if these guys could leave our planet, they would, but they can't because they know at some point in time there's going to be horrible debris coming from space. And so they're safer underground than they are out in space. Okay, so just keep this in mind. It's a big sign. These are all signs. So really the video is about these types of signs and comparing and contrasting them with the severity. I'm saying the sun is going to be more severe than these other types of signs. So in this horror story that's coming up during the end of days, weather is a huge part of it. These auroras may be beautiful, but they belie a progressively thinning magnetosphere that permits more and more of the sun's solar energy to enter our atmosphere, and the poles causing sudden, violent electric, wind, tornadic storms. Houston is a sign of that. About a week later, usually, and then resulting in earthquakes and swarms. California has been hit lately about 2 weeks later, generally. The problem is it's been shortened in recent days here. We've been noticing that these storms come through from the solar effects into the earth faster, a few days faster than a week or 2 weeks, things like that. So basically, our increased solar energy will open up the ozone layer like a Megillah. That is technically a biblical word. It's a smaller scroll, and you'll notice the South Atlantic anomaly, while dust from the galactic current sheet will accumulate on the sun like sackcloth 3 times, I'm predicting, as we read through the Bible. As we go forward into the future here. So it'll be like sackcloth at first here. That'll be made of mohair. That's the Greek word G5155. The event will be a coinciding blood moon eclipse, and mohair solar micronova. So this is going to sync up both of those events, and it will force the kings, the slaves, actually everyone underground. It's the sixth seal. There are these 9 possibilities for it due until 2033. So once again, as you see the sun going yellow to white to red to black, then you'll have the micronova, and it'll be a mohair first. Okay, so the sixth seal, the first part of it here is, then I watched as he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake, a micronova that would unlock the crust, and the mantle will break free. The sun turned black. It's not an eclipse. It's the final stage of micronova. It's called sackcloth, saccos trichonos, layered like goat's shiny mohair. It's Angora sweaters, okay? Worn in mourning. The full moon became blood red, so you can see the syncing between the two. The next one, of course, is Adar 14, March 14th of 2025. The stars fell from heaven because that may be coming from the micronova. It also might be the satellites falling too. So that's a micronova dust accumulation event again. Just as a fig tree drops its bitter winter, that's the winter time, figs when shaken by a strong wind. So is that a hint? I don't know. It's Revelation 6, 12 through 13. So we have 9 coming up. And the Deagle report thinks it would be 2025 when these micronovas would hit this mohair type first, okay? But we have 25, 2 and 25, 1 and 26, 1 and 28, 1 and 29. Once again, you'd see the sun going from the yellow to the white to red to black, coinciding with a blood moon eclipse. And if that occurs, you're watching the sixth seal. We'll see. So during this time frame also, as we move forward, one of the bigger signs will be the 2 witnesses. I'm predicting they show up before the Great Tribulation. They have to get things clean before we go in. We call it in biblical terms tahor. They have to tahor everything. And so fire will proceed from their mouth and devour their enemies. If any man hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. So they're going to be the 2 new oil, the 2 witnesses. And they seem to arrive beforehand and then exited about the midpoint. And so they are part of this process, and they would come in just after the mohair micronova. So they'll arrive just prior to the first trumpet, based on the time date stamp keyword similarities of Revelation 8 and Revelation 11. Fire, blood, and hail is what they're bringing. Okay, so they'll call down the global plagues that seem to be the trumpets. I'm telling you that the false prophet will move in and be more important during the first half of the Great Tribulation of 7 years, okay? And so I would call it tribulation, 3.5 years, Great Tribulation of 3.5 years. So is he the last pope? I don't know, but Tom Horn and Chris Putnam made a good case that he is. He seems to have conflicting viewpoints. He seems to be a 666 kind of guy, but he's not. He's more than likely, he's Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep in many tribulations. And when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. That is St. Malachi's prophecy from about 1,000 years ago, stating that it seems like it's going to be this pope that's the last one, the 112th pope. And, there's lots of these papal commentaries given by Malachi that seems to be very accurate. And so, it's the Benedictine. So the last pope before this one, he would be rule only a short time. And so, well, basically, what they're getting at is that Benedict was a Benedictine, and that was the dictum that came from St. Malachi. Pardon me. So Malachi Martin's talked about it too, and Tom Horn and Chris Putnam. We'll see if he's Petrus Romanus or not, the 112th. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, I'm looking down below and not seeing it. Of the half moon, Paul the First, John Paul the First, because he came in and was only there for a month. John Paul II, labor of the sun, most traveled pope, born on a solar eclipse. Very interesting. There it is, Benedict the 16th, the glory of the olive. He was a Benedictine. So, and now is this Petrus Romanus? We don't know. Okay, so after we get done with the 2 witnesses and the Pope seizing more control, you will go into the environmental plagues. And so those are the first 4 of the trumpets, and they are not the woes. The woes are the last 3, and they will be an environmentalist's worst nightmare. You'll have flaming hail first, then an asteroid falls, then another asteroid, then the sun, moon, and stars struck. And so what I want to be able to state to you is that that's the second activity involving the sun. And I'm saying in the text, it seems like in the Hebrew, it would be stricken with dust. I'm sorry, I didn't copy the Hebrew word that was used in my brand new Hebrew Revelation book. But basically, what they're getting at is the fourth angel sounded the shofar, and a third of the sun was struck with, I'm saying, stricken with dust. Also, a third of the moon, third of the stars. That's the galactic current sheet coming through and sticking like a Swiffer duster to these particular things, the stars, the moon, and the sun, and obliterating a third of them with the dust. Okay? They were darkened. The day had a third less light, and the night likewise. But yet it's going to be getting warmer. Okay? And so that's the fourth trumpet. So in the midst of these first four environmental judgments, you have the sun being struck with dust, I'm arguing. That's my prophetic comment on that. The three woes. Then, after the four environmental judgments of the first four trumpets, you have the fifth and the sixth and the seventh trumpets. And this is my new Hebrew Revelation book that I'm citing. And so it seems as though the way they're stating it is to kill a third of the sons of man in an hour, in a day, and in a month, and a year of a future time frame. The way it's phrased in the Hebrew seems to make sense. And so they also cite the Greek, which I also read too. And I spent so much time yesterday working on this. It seems as though it states it better by stating to kill a third of the sons of man in an appropriate hour, so to speak, in that day to come, in a month and in a year and a later time frame. So very interesting. The fifth trumpet and the sixth trumpet are just horrific. You'll need to be sealed with God's seal by that point in time. Okay, so the midpoint of the final 7 years, the Antichrist arrives. And from what Rebecca Sterling has told me, the Pope will basically baptize aliens in this Colosseum in Rome before he heads down to Israel, and the Antichrist will be killed during this time frame in this particular building, then head down to Jerusalem to rule after the Antichrist revives. And so Rebecca Sterling is an interesting person. I want you to notice one weird little thing here. During the stadium video of Rebecca Sterling, you'll have 3 days of hell on earth: avalanches, blizzards, cyclones, droughts, earthquakes, epidemics, extreme heat, extreme cold, floods, hailstones, even worse than now, ice storms, landslides, impacts from space, sinkholes, solar flares, tornadoes, tsunami, volcanoes, wildfires. That's what's coming, and it's going to be much worse. She's talking about the midpoint of the 7 years, and they're already getting worse right now. Okay, very interesting. So I would argue the Antichrist really doesn't arrive and be a focal point until the midpoint. The Pope is going to lead us into that point, and he'll be discussing aliens, and really he'll be, getting us introduced to aliens before that time. So, okay, now then we move forward to the fourth bowl. That is, so after the midpoint of the Great Tribulation, we go into the bowls, and it seems as though this micronova kill shot occurs on the fourth bowl. I'll discuss more of the bowls in a moment, but basically what Ben is getting at here, Ben Davidson, Earth disaster cycle, you'll have severe weather now, you'll have economic, political, cultural turmoil during this time frame moving forward. The kill shot seems to be the fourth bowl, and then the pole shift after that. I agree with him. It's biblical, guys. It's biblical. So just get used to that process. Okay. So here's your bowls of wrath. They're poured out very quickly in Revelation chapter 16. I'm arguing then the fourth one is the solar kill shot. And so then eventually you get to the seventh bowl. And I'm not covering everything, totally this time, just the high points. The seventh one poured out his bowl on the air, and a loud voice came from the temple, from the throne, saying, "It is done." There were flashes of lightning, voices, peals of thunder, and there was a massive earthquake, such as never occurred since mankind has been on Earth. That is caused by that solar kill shot. It just rumbles the Earth. It gets into the crust. It feeds through, and then eventually you get that violent earthquake in Revelation 16, 17 through 18. So what am I getting at? It seems as though there are three solar effects that drive us through the end times, and they will be a mohair micronova. Then there will be the trumpet type of a dusting of the sun that'll cause a third to be covered, so to speak, and then the solar kill shot at the end. and that'll just drive the Earth crazy, and the crust will slip. And so basically, Ben explains it this way. At some point, Earth's weakening magnetic field will weaken so much that the planet will not be able to sustain even a moderate disruption in the solar wind. When that occurs, the grids will go down and there will be no more power. As the sun continually ramps up toward the micronova, and as Earth's magnetic field continues to weaken, cosmic radiation, that's that sunfall thing, that's cosmic radiation, will bombard the planet. Sunfall the planet more and more. At some point, the solar system will enter the point where the galactic magnetic reversal occurs. The sun will go dark for 3 days, followed by a solar micronova, and the planet will go like twist, pole flip. Okay? So even business today is saying they will flip. Earth's poles are shifting, and it's not a good sign for Earth. They will flip. Okay? Ben is agreeing. This is from 12/11 of 23, and he's saying life in the coming years. What we should expect the coming years, there will be this pole shift. Micronova due, magnetic field decreases, increased impact of solar energy, cosmic rays, jet streams, volatility, climate extremes, record highs, lows, drought, snowstorms, mental health issues, prepping. World War III is at the end. Okay? Yeshua arrives as World War III begins in Israel. Yes, I realize there are war drums today. War is very, very logical. I'm saying that based on the Bible, the way I read it, it seems like it happens at the end. And so my citations for this are Ezekiel 38:39, the Gog War just before the millennium. It's at the end of that section of Ezekiel. Zechariah 14, right at the end of Zechariah 14, war just as Yeshua arrives. It makes sense based on prophecies. Then Revelation 19, Gog War, just as Yeshua arrives. Isaiah 24, pole flip, just before God punishes the Zava. That would be these warrior fallen angels in the Merom, which is an area above the earth that is not up to the heaven. It's just kind of above Mount Hermon up to probably the moon. Okay? And Paul Craig Roberts, just love him. And he's saying, watching Washington foment nuclear war. Yes, they're doing it right now. But I'm saying, based on the Bible and available prophecies, it seems like this World War III happens after the other observable signs and happens at the end. Okay? Now, this is a prophecy. You can stop it and pause it any moment you want to. I'm going to cover it quickly, but it agrees with all of these other comments and really, in many ways, agrees with Wilkerson, Dudeman, and Groover. Okay, so this is a 90-year-old woman from Norway, had a vision from God in 1968. She met with a minister named E. Minos, nice fellow. She said the coming of Jesus, and she links it together with the outbreak of the Third World War. So she saw Scandinavia. She saw the things that would occur before Jesus returned. The four signs are, first, before Jesus comes and before the Third World War. Once again, she's linking those together. Before it breaks out, there will be a long detente, and there has been. Since really the Cold War moving forward, there's been a long period of peace. And the Third World War would begin in a way that no one would have anticipated and from an unexpected place. And keep in mind, you can also find this video so you can listen to this particular prophecy anytime you want to. Her second point is the lukewarmness without parallel will take hold of Christians. We want a substitute. We want prosperity, happiness, Christianity. We want success, material things, and it will increase markedly just before the return of Jesus. And we are experiencing that right now. The third thing is moral disintegration, TV filled with horrible violence, and most indecent things will pass before our eyes. You can pause the slides here and read this for yourself, or you can go search 1968 Norwegian Woman's Vision, and you can listen to it yourself. The fourth one is people from poor countries will stream to Europe and to America, and there was no such thing as this type of immigration back then. They will be treated very poorly. Just before the Second World War, the Jews there, but also it kind of likens to the Third World War. So Jesus will come and the Third World War breaks out. It will be a short war. She saw it in the vision. As all that I've seen of war before is only child's play compared to this one. It will be ended with a nuclear atomic bomb. The air will be so polluted that one cannot draw one's breath, and it will cover several continents, including America, Japan, Australia, the wealthy nations. The water will be ruined, and we can no longer till the soil. The result will be only a remnant will remain, and she will not see it. But when the time draws near, You must take courage and tell this. I have received it from God, and nothing of it goes against what the Bible tells. And so the main thing is you've got hungry, thirsty, sunfall, burning heat, then war. Those are the big four in Revelation 7:16. War is not listed there at all. Okay, so where are we? We are in the birth pangs. I believe we're in seal 4. It feels like it. We're not in the tribulation. We're not in the Great Tribulation. What occurs before World War III? Quite a bit, and a lot of it is solar. Keep that in mind. Thank you very much for the time. Be blessed, and keep your garments clean. You can't go into this wedding naked, so keep your garments clean. Thanks, and God bless.